It is good to have you join me on yet another episode of the program Service to Humanity, a program designed to update you on the activities of the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development. My name is Habiba Zakzak, your regular anchor. On the program tonight, we shall be looking at the 9th Annual Migration Dialogue held in Abuja, where stakeholders met to, among other things, evaluate the impact of climate change events on displacements and human mobility in Nigeria. Testimonies of some beneficiaries of the End Skills program also follows in tonight's package. These and more coming your way shortly.
Mo ṣàǹfààní gidigidi lára tèmi nílé mi o àtàwọn ọmọ mi o torí ara oúnjẹ ara pákídé ẹ̀mí àṣegàrí à ń tẹ̀bà à ń ṣèbẹ̀ à ń jẹun ìjọba ṣeun lọ́wọ́ á ràn wọ́n lọ́wọ́ ètò tó dáa ni tó fáìn tó dáa ni torí ìjọ yẹn gan tí wọ́n pé owó yẹn ẹlòmíì kò sí nǹkan kan pé bóyá bákan jíjẹ ṣùgbọ́n gba adé báyìí wọ́n kọ́kọ́ yà ayọ̀ 2000 wọ́n ṣèbẹ̀ àwọn ọmọ inú wọn dùn ara ráìsì àdàṣẹ́ńjì tó kù sórí ìka pákí pé ká lè máa rí mu jẹun díẹ̀díẹ̀ ìjọba ṣe.
We shall begin with the Management Diary, where we bring you news from the Humanitarian Ministry and her agencies. In our lineup, Humanitarian Ministry calls on the public to report irregularities in the N-Power program, just as bill to institutionalize NSIP skills second reading in Senate. Let's have the details.
Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development has urged the public to come forward with information on any abnormalities they may have spotted during the implementation of N-Power or any of the other national social investment programs. The Permanent Secretary of the Ministry, Dr. Nasir Sanugwarzo, stated this at a press conference where he also revealed that the ministry has identified some financial irregularities in the N-Power program and is working with relevant agencies to address the issue.
The ministry's attention has been brought to recent publications regarding ongoing investigations in relation to fraud allegations in the program. We wish to hereby state as follows. The ministry has deployed a well-rounded mechanism for selection of eligible beneficiaries from across the country. And this has been in place since the inception of the program. Working with our service provider, program beneficiaries are onboarded, trained, and deployed to pre-selected places of primary assignment.
The Permanent Secretary stated that when the ministry noticed that there may have been sharp practices by some personnel of the Payment Service Provider (PSP) involved in the payment process of beneficiaries, the matter was immediately referred to ICPC for thorough investigation.
We are aware that certain persons have consequently been invited for interrogation as part of the ongoing investigations. In the meantime, we have carried out thorough reinforcement of our systems to eliminate all anomalies and prevent similar occurrences in the future. To this end, we are in close collaboration with the ICPC to support the successful determination of the investigation.
Gwarzo further revealed that in a bid to ensure transparency and accountability in the implementation of N-Power and other national social investment programs, the ministry has over time involved other government MDAs, security agencies, and civil society organizations in monitoring and compliance checks across the 36 states of the country and the FCT.
We want to assure all N-Power beneficiaries that the federal government's continued commitment to the program and subsequent exit boarding channels are fully activated and in progress. All program beneficiaries should therefore continue to apply themselves to their utmost at their places of primary assignment. All monthly stipends will continue to be paid in line with the program expectations.
A very important bill.
Still on the National Social Investment Program, a bill to institutionalize the NSIP has scaled second reading in the Senate. This was sequel to the presentation of the lead debate on the general principles of the bill by the Senate leader Ibrahim Gobir during plenary on Tuesday, 6th December 2022. Leading the debate, Gobir, who is the Senate leader, said that the bill is titled A Bill for an Act to Provide Legal and Institutional Framework for the Establishment of the National Social Investment Program for the Assistance and Employment of Poor and Vulnerable in Nigeria, establish a National Social Investment Program agency for the purpose of managing the implementation of the program and for related matters 2022.
Mr. President, my respected colleagues, the NSIP was created in 2016 by Mr. President Commander-in-Chief to address social-economic inequalities and alleviate poverty among Nigerians through 4 social support programs meant to empower the poorest and the most vulnerable Nigerians to attain an acceptable standard of living. The NSIP is directly and indirectly impacting the lives of poor Nigerians through its 4 cluster programs.
In his remarks, Senate President Ahmed Lawan said the Senate unanimously agrees that the bill is a very good bill, very important, and also testifies to the fact that the government wants an improvement in the way and manner the various programs are implemented.
This is an effort by the administration to ensure that there is a legacy for this program and also a legacy that can make the program more transparent, more efficient, and more effective.
The bill then scaled second reading and has been referred to the Senate Committee on Special Duties to report back in 2 weeks.
Welcome back. It has been estimated that drought will affect at least 700 million people globally by 2030, and sea levels will rise by between 30 centimeters to 60 centimeters by 2100. Nigeria is currently reeling from the effects of its worst floods in 10 years, which has displaced about 1.4 million, affecting 33 out of the 36 states of the Federation and resulting in a total of about 5 million internally displaced persons in Nigeria. As a result of this, the National Commission for Refugees, Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons and International Organization for Migration hosted other stakeholders for the 9th Annual Migration Dialogue in Abuja to, among other things, evaluate the impact of climate change events on displacement and human mobility in Nigeria. Our crew was in Abuja to bring us sights and sounds of this event. Let's have that story.
In the sense that it happens periodically.
To commemorate this year's International Migrants' Day on December 8, 2022 in Abuja, the National Commission for Refugees, Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons and International Organization for Migration (IOM) hosted other stakeholders for the 9th Annual Migration Dialogue in Abuja. This year's theme being Accelerating Climate Adaptation in Displacement and Human Mobility saw the stakeholders holding discussions and performance analysis as the meeting sought to evaluate the effects of climate change event on human mobility and displacement in Nigeria, as well as the current adaptation strategies being implemented. The goal was to provide real-world solutions and interventions. Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Hajia Sadia Umar Farouk, who was represented by Dr. Abubakar Suleiman, Deputy Director, Migration of the ministry noted that figures from the United Nations on Nigeria's migratory activities demonstrated the importance of the phenomenon in all facets of the country.
The United Nations estimates that in 2017, irregular migration from Nigeria stood at 1,255,425, and increased by 14.8% in 2015. And again, the estimate further shows that Nigeria is home to no fewer than 1,308,000 migrants, 568 from various parts of the world. This makes Nigeria an important country of origin and destination with regards to international migration.
On the devastating floods in most parts of the country this year that have caused the loss of many lives and property and displaced over 1 million people, Dr. Abubakar Suleiman said he hopes the dialogue would complement government efforts in ensuring the safety of lives and property of Nigerians.
Climate events such as this have been on the increase in recent years, and the need to accelerate adaptation to these issues cannot be overemphasized. At the federal and state levels, Nigeria is adopting various adaptation techniques such as reclamation of land lost to coastal erosion in Lagos through the Eco-Atlantic City project, or the Kano relocation project, where at least 800 households residing in flood-prone areas are relocated to safer areas. I expect that this dialogue will assess these techniques and also identify new methods which can be adopted to strengthen our resilience in dealing with climate effects, as well as better manage displacement and human mobility.
Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me...
However, Commissioner, National Commission for Refugees, Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons, Hajia Iman Ibrahim, lamented that the country had more cases of emigration with its adverse consequences.
This year's migration dialogue comes at a very critical time. While experiencing a different pattern of migration post-COVID-19, Nigeria is also slowly recuperating from the devastating impact of the worst flood event in decades, which has displaced about 1.4 million persons in 33 states out of 37 states of the Federation, bringing the total estimated numbers of displaced persons in Nigeria from a whopping 3.2 million in March 2022 to more than 5 million as of December 2022.
Iman Ibrahim further called on stakeholders to come up with adaptation programs to reduce the impact of climate events and their consequences.
Although a lot has been done by the federal government to mitigate this climate event on the population, more can still be done by stakeholders present here today in achieving climate justice for climate IDPs and climate refugees. It is therefore my hope that collectively we can join hands with the collaboration and support of our international partners to come up with the adaptation programs to reduce impact of climate events and their consequences, including displacement and human mobility of the most vulnerable group in our society.
There were also goodwill messages by some of the stakeholders present at the event.
The choice of this year's theme for the National Migration Dialogue in Nigeria, Accelerating Climate Adaptation in Displacement and Human Mobility, is timely, as the impact of climate change on migration is increasingly a major factor responsible for human mobility and displacements in the country. We have strongly believed that it should become an important consideration in the formulation of migration policy.
It is not always easy to establish the effects of climate change on populations who are already mobile, nor on the changes in their patterns of mobility. This is one of the key reasons why integrating issues of climate change and environmental drivers into migration policy making and management has been a challenge in West Africa, but also globally.
To provide
Specific objectives of the meeting were to initiate interagency collaboration between migration stakeholders and environmental management agencies through dialogue and information sharing, identify and access best practices currently adopted in strengthening adaptation and resilience to climate events in Nigeria, identify possible areas for research and studies on the nexus between climate change and migration issues in Nigeria, e.g., irregular migration, human trafficking, etc., and map out strategies for practicable interventions.
Identifying areas where you work, institutions within
The event also saw a technical session where a panel of stakeholders discussed understanding the nexus of climate change, displacement and human mobility, and responding to impacts of climate change-induced displacement and human mobility, strategies for mainstreaming climate change adaptation into migration policy and programs. Highlights of the event was the presentation of awards to some stakeholders who were recognized for their contributions and impact on the lives of migrants and internally displaced persons. The National Coordinator, Civil Society Network on Migration and Development, Dr. Emeka Obieze, who was a recipient of the award, said the recognition of his efforts motivate him to continue giving his best.
To know that people you work with appreciate your contribution. So that's all I feel. I feel honored. I am emboldened to do the work.
taking note of the lacuna.
Another recipient, Executive Director of Patriotic Citizen Initiative, Osita Osemene, said the award came to him as a surprise.
I'm even so surprised because I never knew that people could appreciate that at least this kind of work is really coming out from someone, from somewhere like me. So I feel very highly honored and elated, and I appreciate the National Commission for Refugees and International Commission for Migration for this very, very great, remarkable award.
Speaking to journalists, Commissioner, National Commission for Refugees, Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons, Hajia Iman Ibrahim, shed light on the objectives of the meeting.
The objective is just to strengthen collaboration and partnership around the migration governance structure of Nigeria. So every stakeholder is here. Next year, we'll see to the review of our 2015 migration policy. So this particular edition of the dialogue is very critical. Post-COVID-19, the migration patterns are different, and we've just had a recent devastating flood, first of its kind in the last 10 years, that has seen displacement of over 1.4 million people, which has raised our displacement figures to over 5 million. So this year's migration dialogue is critical. So we'll see to a lot of stakeholders and partners talking about climate justice for climate refugees and climate IDPs.
Laurent Debak, Chief Mission, International Organization for Migration, IOM Nigeria, highlighted efforts being made to address the challenges of migration.
We combat and we promote at the same time. So we combat certain aspects of migration when it relates to irregular migration and the roles of smugglers and traffickers. But at the same time, we want to promote legal migration and pathways and the role that the expatriates, those outside the diaspora, can play in the development of the society where they are, but as well keeping a strong link with their society. So we work at every level, and what is appreciated here in particular is the number of agencies, commission and ministries who are present. Is really show that the government of Nigeria has an approach that we call all of the government. But they go further because they also work with community-based organization, the civil society. So it's all of society approach.
Still watching Service to Humanity, a program tailored to bring to your screen programs and activities of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development and its agencies as it carries out its mandate. The recent nationwide N skills training has recorded great success. In order to empower them, over 10,000 Nigerian youths have been trained in various capacity building skills under the program, which was created by the federal government. Our crew interacted with some of the beneficiaries as they share with us their testimonies. Keep watching.
The coming of the Empower program and other clusters of the National Social Investment programs is one thing that has continued to give hope and put smiles on the faces of poor and vulnerable Nigerians. The Empower, being the largest of the NSIPs, focuses more on the Nigerian youth to see that they have a chance of acquiring skills that would help them in earning a living. The just concluded Empower N Skills training saw a large turnout of youths who wanted to take advantage of the opportunity. Ene Igbe, a beneficiary under Aluminium and Metal Works, says her experience at the training has been amazing, as it has given her a chance to network. She shares with us some of the things they were taught.
For the first week, we learned about life skill, how to live with people, positive attitude, how to control our temper, and how to live with people around us. And to say I've really learned a lot, because definitely going out, I've got to know that there are ways that maybe I've not been living fine and I have to make amendments from there.
Ene plans to open an aluminium and metal materials shop and also employ others in the business. She appreciates the federal government.
I want to thank and appreciate them for everything, for giving us this opportunity to learn things maybe we haven't learned before, and getting to know that maybe aluminium is not just a word. There are things more than it is.
Abubakar Jibrin, another beneficiary under aluminium, says he has no prior knowledge or experience in the field, and when he joined the training, he thought he couldn't learn anything in it. Now, he says, he has learned a lot. He shares his plans for the future.
After having my training, I plan to open a place where I can apply the knowledge I acquired here. As a disabled person, I will hire young boys who will assist me in carrying out my work.
He expresses his appreciation to the federal government and humanitarian ministry for the opportunity.
I thank and appreciate the federal ministry for making me one of the beneficiaries of this program. People with disability like us should be encouraged to participate in such programs, and I am so grateful.
Gali Muhammad, a beneficiary and trainee under the auto mechanic unit, had no prior experience in any form of auto repairs. He shares his experience at the N Skills training with us.
When I came here at first, I had no idea of how to repair a car, but thank God and thank the federal government of Nigeria, the Minister Hajia Sadia Umar Farouk, for the opportunity given to us. We can now fix a car.
Before now, Muhammad used to be a sales boy at a provision store back in his home state, Katsina. According to him, he does not intend to go back to his previous job, but he intends to become a professional auto mechanic. He appreciates the federal government for the opportunity.
We really appreciate the President Muhammad Buhari and Hajia Sadia Umar Farouk that gave us the opportunity to acquire this skill.
Another beneficiary under the welding and fabrication unit, Amina Abubakar, said he and others from his community were told about the N skills by elders in the community, and he decided to try his luck. Abubakar shares that he got shortlisted on merit and without any help.
After my registration, I was not charged any kobo. I just got a call to come down to NITT Zaria for training since I was shortlisted. This really got me surprised because I had even forgotten that I applied for it.
NITT Zaria.
That is our package for this week. Until I come your way again next week, stay safe. Don't forget to send in questions and suggestions to any of our social media platforms or drop a message on the Ministry's page on Facebook or Twitter as shown on your screen. See you next week.